All right, what's up, everybody? Sorry I'm out. I am going to be back tomorrow, and we're just going to dive into some proofs today. I'm going to try to lay out some tips, some strategies to help you. We're going to stick with some easies for the first 4 minutes of the video, and then we're going to jump into some mediums. I think you're ready. I think you are ready. So let's just dive straight in. This was your homework. We did these on Friday. Your homework was to finish these. If you didn't do it, please do it today. You don't understand. If you don't practice these proofs and stay on top of your homework, I'm going to get close to the screen here, you will fail. You can't wing these. You've got to practice and get better. So let me just refresh this one right here. These are all easy levels. Remember, the tip is to choose a side to stay on, and you want to choose the more complex side. So on the right, we got more going on. So we're going to work on the right. I need to get it down to cosecant. A good strategy is to just start using identities. And so this cotangent, that screams identity 5 to me, where cotangent is the same thing as cosine over sine. That's identity 5. And then this cosine here, I don't want to change that too much. You very rarely, I don't know if you ever almost change cosines to secants. Super rare. Usually it's secants. Usually changing everything to sine and cosine is a great idea. So now we have this. We've got a fraction divided by another fraction. So we are going to, instead of dividing, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal, which helps us because those cancel. And then we're left with just a 1 on top and just a sine on bottom. And this is great because 1 over sine, you always keep peeking over here. 1 over sine is cosecant. So we know then that we have solved it. So let's just annotate, and then you can rewind the video again and watch if that was too quick for you. We did identity number 5 to get to that. Then we multiplied by the reciprocal, and then we finished up with identity number 1, just making a quick switch. Okay, but honestly, for this video, I want to jump to some of the mediums. I know we're only 2 minutes in, but that was last night's. Let's look at today's assignment, these medium level proofs. And I love that I made this sheet with this at the top. Okay, these are all strategies to solve identities. All of these things right here. These 5 strategies are your go-to. And the order that these are in sort of matters. Basically, I want you to star this right here, the factoring, because if you can ever factor in a proof, you should try to do this first. So let's just say look for this first. If you can factor, do it. Do it. If you can't factor, then probably the most common would be using an identity. Second most common would be changing everything to its sine and cosine form and hoping that stuff cancels. Finding a least common denominator is if you ever have a plus sign. And then sometimes you just might need to FOIL or distribute, but these are all in your tool bag. So we go through and we look. This is a combo of easy mediums, by the way. So this one right here is an easy. It's multiplication. I think if you change tangent to sine over cosine, and you have this other cosine that's already there, I think you'll be able to get it down to sine of x. So I'm not going to solve that one. We are going to save this one for last because I think it's the hardest one. We're going to omit this one. And so let's jump to right here. Oh man, we've got something to the 4th power. So remember our tips. We always have to just work on one side, and we want to work on the most complicated side. So I would say that since this is to the 4th power and this is only to the 2nd, this is probably the side we want to work on. And then I start thinking of my toolkit, okay, well, I always need to look to factor first. can I factor this here? The answer is yes. This is a perfect square minus another perfect square. So we can break this down using difference of squares. So I'm going to do 2 parentheses. Sine to the 4th gets broken down into sine squared. That's the square root of that, right? And then cosine to the 4th gets broken down into cosine squared. And as always, when you break down into difference of squares, you have 1 plus and 1 minus. How is that helping us, Smith? We're trying to get a 1 minus 2 cosine, so there's no more sines over here, so somehow stuff cancels. Ooh. Bang. Identity number 6. You always need to start hunting for identities. Sine squared plus cosine squared is equal to 1. So that just turns into 1. So it might as well just be canceled out, right? So I mean, I can still show it right there just for one more step, but that might as well be canceled out. So now I need to get this sine squared minus cosine squared to equal 1 minus 2 cosine squared. So what does this have that this doesn't have? The answer is that sine squared. So I need to think back to my identity sheet. Is there a way I can switch out just a sine squared for something? Look at your identity sheet and you will see that yes, right here, sine squared is the same thing as 1 minus cosine squared. So over here, I can make that switch and I can change this sine squared to a 1 minus cosine squared minus another cosine squared. And then remember, always take a peek. We're really, really close. That's going to give us our answer, because when you do a minus cosine minus another cosine, you're 1 minus 2 cosine. Deathly Hallows symbol to show that it's done. No, I'll stick with my check mark. Okay. We just solved our first medium level proof. It took us 3 minutes and 32 seconds. I was taking my time. So take a look at that. The key step for us was factoring. We had to factor first, or else we would have been toast. Would have been toast. Then we used identity 6. Then we used identity 6 again, just a different variation, and then we went to work. Let's do this one. Yeah, let's do this one. Which side looks more complex, left or right? In math, adding things together when it gets to complicated things is actually harder. So this left side, we're going to work on the left side. Anytime, and look, I put this at the top right here. Anytime you have 2 separate terms and you're trying to end up with 1 term, you probably are going to have to combine them. And here's what I mean. Right here, we have 2 terms on the left and only 1 term on the right. So somehow this has to be combined. So I'm going to try to do a least common denominator. So I'm going to change tangent to sine over cosine. I'm going to change cotangent to cosine over sine. Now we need to do a least common denominator. I need to be able to add those. So I'm going to actually multiply the left side over here by sine over sine. I can come pop in after I make this video real quick, yeah. Sine over sine, and then this, I'm going to multiply by cosine over cosine, so that our new fraction, when we make this sine times sine, that gives us sine squared over sine cosine, plus cosine times cosine, cosine squared over sine cosine. Why did we do that, Smith? We're not even anywhere close to getting, actually we're 1.5 steps away. The reason we did least common denominator is so that we can add those together. And guess what? What is sine squared plus cosine squared? Dun, dun, dun. That's gonna turn into just 1. And 1 over sine and 1 over cosine is secant and cosecant. So we're there. 1 over sine turns into the cosecant. It doesn't really matter the order, so we'll just do the 1 over the cosine first to make the secant, and 1 over sine to make the cosecant, and we got it. Bang. Another medium level proof that took us about 3 minutes. We had to use identities, we had to use a least common denominator. Look at me slacking. I need to hit it with the... That's not great, but oh well. Okay. So then here's my... It's 11 minutes. I'm not going to solve another proof. I'm going to use the last 2 minutes of this video or so just to show you that the way that you clutch on these proofs... And yeah, I know I said this one's the hardest. Save that one for last. Y'all save it for last. We'll do it Tuesday as a bell ringer. But it's all about your first step. So here's my hint for you to help since I'm not there. When I look at this, I know I'm going to work on the left side, and I see an identity staring at me right there. When I go over here, I'm going to work on the left side, and I see cotangent times tangent. I know that those have a special relationship, that something's going on there. Down here, I see a squared over here, and nothing squared over here, so I think I might try to FOIL. And then down here, I'll let you decide what to do first. And down here, I'll let you decide what to do first. But hey, with your groups, I mean, you can, today we're still, especially since I'm out, you can work with somebody. But I gotta admit, it's always easier seeing me solve the proof than it is you trying on your own. So your assignment for today, now that this video is over, is to finish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 problems. Good luck, everybody. Annotate, write notes, do your best. Stay off your phones. Do not give the sub any issues. Work hard. I'll be back tomorrow. Peace.